our own.
So I think the similarities.
Yes,
so
the similarities and differences.
So when I read the passage, "The House on Mango Street with Swollen Doors," I immediately think of the house that I grew up in, which was this very well-loved worn house with paint peeling from the windowsills, sills and trim, and it also had swollen doors and a sagging facade. There was a parrot on the porch and all these derelict dogs sleeping on old sort of threadbare rugs. And I get the feeling that she kind of personalizes it, makes it almost human. That's the way we always talked about the house. We actually called it the big house because there were a lot of bizarre, crazy people inside of it. Yeah, like a prison. But it was very, it's just like, I get a similar feeling. Because even though there was issues and it was falling apart, it was still very loved. And it was through a child's lens.
Anyone else wants to share any similarities or differences?
I think one of the things that keeps striking me about this chapter every time I read it is that I feel like I'm in a very different place in terms of my expectations for a house than where the narrator is. And you know, the chapter is so much, there's a sense of regret and a sense of like striving not quite fulfilled, which is really compelling. But I feel like I have a few more years on her, and one of the things I've discovered about houses is that they're always a challenge, and they never quite fulfill your expectations. And then, although I've only lived in old houses, I've talked with people who have moved into new houses, and they have a whole different set of challenges. So it's always something that's never perfect, and that's just sort of one of the things I think that at least I've learned how to accept.
What else?
Just one difference for me is along the lines of just thinking about like how you feel when you're in it as a child, and there's this, like Peter said, this feeling of disappointment that she has, and you know, the first house that I lived in with my parents was in the Bronx, and it was an apartment, but my grandmother lived below us. And one of the things I hated more than anything is she would get that like old person mentality where it's like children are seen and you don't hear them, and if they hear you, something's going to happen. And I hated that. But then I remember when we moved into the first house we moved in up here, it was so quiet, and it was like my whole perspective changed on that whole piece of it. And so I think the thing I wrote down is like it's a different sort of disappointment. Like you feel like when you're in it, like it's just the worst thing ever. But then when you get to a different situation, like what Peter said, it's like a whole new set of problems. And so the other problems don't seem as bad in comparison because you feel like, well, what would I do if I didn't have that?